From early turnovers to sloppy communication, the Indiana Fever took on the Los Angeles Sparks in a game that will be remembered for only one reason: Caitlin Clark. What she did to the Sparks not only secured a crucial victory, but also painted a picture of what the Fever's future looks like. Right from the opening whistle, it didn't look good for the Fever. Fans were worried as turnovers started piling up early on. This wasn't the confident, smooth Indiana team we've seen in recent games. The ball was slipping away far too often, and the Sparks were capitalizing. Within the first few minutes, Indiana gave away multiple possessions, and for a moment, it felt like the game was slipping right out of their hands.
This is Odyssey Sims on a hardship deal. And that's off the mark on her first look. She spent part of the year in Dallas as well. She's played really well here in LA, played well in Dallas too, and that's an over and back.
Indiana couldn't seem to find their rhythm, and the frustration was high. Another turnover here, a bad pass there. It was a sloppy start, and fans in the arena were starting to shift nervously in their seats. The Sparks, meanwhile, were not missing their opportunities, and it looked like Indiana might be in for a long night.
Let's see if LA stays in it. I would, since she turned it over.
Here's the impressive rookie Rakia Jackson, averaging 13 points per game, off the mark on her first look here. That's knocked out of bounds by Azurá Stevens in Fever basketball.
Despite the shaky start, Clark remained unfazed. While the turnovers were mounting, she still managed to find her spots on the floor, draining a step-back three that seemed to remind everyone why she is the future of this team.
Clark, step back, hits a three.
That shot changed the energy in the building. Clark's confidence was becoming contagious. But make no mistake, the turnovers were still a problem. Just when the Fever looked like they were settling in, another mistake cost them possession. There was a point where Clark herself was visibly frustrated with the team's lack of control. Players weren't talking to each other.
Caitlin Clark looking to push the pace. Clark showing off the moves. Clark, oh, to the rim, just couldn't finish.
Simple passes were being missed. It was very sloppy basketball. Despite the rocky start, Clark was steady and confident. While some might crumble under that kind of pressure, she stepped up. After a series of sloppy possessions, Clark read the defense like a seasoned vet, forcing a crucial turnover on the Sparks' end. This was a momentum-shifting moment, exactly the kind of play Indiana needed to get back on track.
Clark with the hesitation. Clark gets inside and lays it in.
Instead of turning it over, Indiana playing downhill.
But it wasn't just her defense. Clark's offensive versatility was on full display too. After another tough sequence, she took matters into her own hands, driving straight to the hoop and finishing with a crafty layup. You could feel the momentum starting to shift back in Indiana's favor, all thanks to Clark's leadership.
Nurse has made the most triples for LA. That's her 41st.
Clark stepping back on the baseline, knocking it down from the mid-range.
That's a beautiful mid-range step.
Even as the turnovers kept coming, Clark refused to let her team fail. Another key play came when she led a fast break and dished a beautiful assist to Kelsey Mitchell, putting points on the board when Indiana needed it the most. That's what makes her so special, her ability to keep everyone involved even when the team is struggling.
She and Mitchell each have 7. Donald lobbing it up. Lee wasn't there. Burrell able to save it in the corner. Burrell attacking the baseline and draws the foul.
As the quarter came to a close, the Fever still hadn't completely shaken off the turnover bug. It was clear they were struggling to maintain control of the game, but Clark's efforts kept them alive. By the end of the first, Indiana found themselves still in the game, despite having turned the ball over more times than they would have liked. Clark's leadership was the only thing holding the team together during a messy start.
Clark will launch off balance. Really got it to go. We'll take us through the first quarter of action with that backcourt of Clark and Mitchell.
The Fever were on the ropes, struggling with mistakes, but Clark never let them fall apart. The turnovers were a problem, no doubt about it, but her resilience in the face of adversity is exactly what this team needs going forward. By the time the first quarter ended, Clark had not only kept the Fever in the game, but had also started to lay the foundation for a comeback.
14 of Indiana's 23. Led by as many as 9. Their advantage is 4 after 1 from Indianapolis.
Now, after that chaotic first half, with all the turnovers and sloppy play, it was time for Caitlin Clark to step up even more. The Fever needed her leadership and her playmaking abilities now more than ever. And let me tell you, what she did in the second half was nothing short of spectacular. This is where she showed that she's not just the future of this team, she's the present. Coming into the third quarter, the Fever were trailing and things still felt a bit shaky. But right out of the gate, Clark made sure that Indiana was going to take control. It started with her aggressive drives to the basket, where she wasn't afraid to absorb contact and finish strong. It was clear that Clark was in attack mode.
In that Sparks upset win here in May, Clark draws the foul and will head to the line.
Just a simple, clear out, naked side, two-man game right here with a switch.
But it wasn't just her scoring that was a problem for the Sparks. Clark was setting her teammates up perfectly. After breaking down the defense on a drive, she kicked it out to Kelsey Mitchell, who knocked down a huge three-pointer. The Fever were clawing back into the game, and Clark was the engine behind the comeback.
Clark on the bounce, Doncic charging inside and finishing.
It's a great read because Kia Nurse stunts at the downhill drive.
And defensively, Clark wasn't taking her foot off the gas either. She intercepted a lazy pass from the Sparks, leading to an easy fast break bucket. That steal felt like the moment where the tide truly started to turn in Indiana's favor.
Good execution right here by Indiana. The little short roll. Clark puts it right into her hands. You see the stunt on the strong side by Nurse.
By the end of the third quarter, Clark had not only closed the gap, but it helped Indiana take the lead. The Sparks, who looked so confident earlier in the game, were suddenly on their heels. And if you ask me, it all came down to Clark's ability to read the game and adjust. The way she switched between scorer and playmaker was masterful.
The Fever have been a little sloppy with the ball in the first half.
Well, first possession blitz by the Sparks and a turnover by Indiana. One of 11 turnovers.
Now, as we entered the fourth quarter, the game was still very much up for grabs. But Caitlin Clark was not about to let this one slip away. With the Fever holding a narrow lead, she did exactly what great players do. She closed. Early in the fourth, Clark hit a tough step-back jumper right in the face of her defender. That shot felt like the dagger, and the Sparks knew they were in trouble.
Clark, step back, hits a three!
But she wasn't done. Clark then orchestrated a beautiful fast break play where she found Nalissa Smith for an easy layup. The Fever were running on all cylinders now, and the Sparks just couldn't keep up with Clark's pace.
5 triples, Caitlin, go ahead and shoot till your arm falls off.
And Mitchell knocks that one away. Here comes Clark going the other way. Clark going behind the back. Oh, it's Boston, an and one.
As the game wore on, it became clear that this was more than just a regular season game for the Fever. This was a statement. The Fever have their future locked in with Caitlin Clark. Her ability to take over the game and lift her team, even when they started off shaky, shows that the Fever are poised for big things. She finished the game with 24 points, 10 rebounds, and 10 assists, marking a huge triple-double performance that sealed the victory.
You know you were 1 rebound away from your second triple-double.
Of course I knew, but honestly, we were just trying to get stops. I thought our defense got a lot better there at the end of the game, but we need to find a way to be consistent there for four quarters. So proud of our group. We found a way to get it done, but somebody had to get the rebound. So AB was joking. We always joke about stealing each other's rebounds, so it's funny.
What Caitlin Clark did to the Sparks changes everything for the Fever's future. This wasn't just another game. This was the kind of performance that shows why the Fever can build a championship team around her. Despite all the turnovers and early mistakes, Clark's leadership, grit, and undeniable talent carried the Fever to a win when it seemed like things could go sideways. And that's the kind of player who defines the future of a franchise.